What's up, guys, and welcome to a brand new video. And in this one, it's going to be a little bit different because it's going to be a little bit more of a sort of conversational video, but I'm going to be going over some of the different sort of levels of the console mod sort of journey or environment or whatever you want to call it right now, because technically there really isn't a environment for it right now in SnowRunner, but I want to go over sort of a roundup of everything we know and everything that we have continued to see from the developers. Now, I researched in a bunch of different areas. I went back and watched old trailers. I went over to Reddit. I went and dug through the focus forums, and really, the idea that I've been able to sort of come to as a conclusion is that they're still, how do I say this properly? They're still saying that they're coming, but they won't really still give us a date. Now, one thing that I want to touch on in particular revolves around a segment in the Phases trailer where they talk about Phase 2. Specifically, one of the things that they showed in that particular trailer, and I'll put it on the screen right now, is that during Phase 2, new modding features would come as part of the Phase 2 free content. Now, it's kind of a vague idea, and most of the things that I've been able to dig up have still been sort of vague. I haven't been able to dig up anything that revolves around a release date or anything sort of confirming. But if we look at what happened with that, Phases trailer, and we take a look at it, I've got it up on my screen right now, and it says new modding features coming in Phase 2 free content. Now, I don't know about you, but we've already got on PC anyway, we've already got, the standard mods themselves. We've got map mods now. We've got the editor. So that really, I think, probably means, if you kind of dig into it a little bit more deeply, console mods could be one of the things that relates to. However, they also talked about at one point in a different mod-focused trailer, they also talked about the potential of interior customization being included as a modding feature or sort of a moddable feature. So it could be relating to that instead of console mods, but only time will tell. Now, judging by the sort of timeline we're at right now, I mean, keep in mind that they said Phase 1 in its entirety was due out about 3 weeks after the release of the game. Now, we've gone a lot further on than that, and Phase 1 is currently still in public test server testing and has not been released into the main game due to the fact that it's been pushed back by hotfixes, bug fixes, things like that. And while I'm not going to say it didn't come out when they said it was going to come out, I'm not going to say that because people asked for those hot fixes. People asked for those updates. People asked for those bug fixes, and they presumably rerouted their resources to correct those bugs before moving forward into new features. And I think that it's really important to kind of take a step back and go, okay, we're asking for these new features like mods on console, but we also have to remember that we also asked for all these bug fixes that they're trying to actually, sort of hammer out right now, and I think that's where a lot of their resources are potentially going. Now, something that's also really important to note here is that on the forums, actually back on the 4th of June, Jellyfoosh, one of the community managers, actually said on the forums, and I'll put it up on the screen right here too so you guys can see it, but he said, hey, Jack7786, mods will indeed come to consoles in a future update, although we haven't announced any release dates yet. Once we do, you'll be able to see it everywhere. So I feel like that's enough of a confirmation for me to go, well, they haven't necessarily given up on console mods, because I feel like a lot of people out there in the community are saying, well, it'll never happen, they've just given up on it, or it was false advertising and they're just not going to do it. I genuinely believe that they're going to do it. I just don't know when. And what worries me is the potential for it to be pushed further back into future phases. So maybe like their first idea was that they would include it in phase 2, but maybe it didn't come until like the phase 4 expansion. Hopefully that's not the case, because that would mean that we wouldn't see it until like the end of 2020, which is not what anybody wants. But if you also look at the timeline for phase 1, and when it was supposed to be due out versus like the actual timeline that we have on it now, where as of posting this video, it's actually not out yet, kind of puts phase 4 potentially in a rocky position where we could maybe not be seeing phase 4 until spring of 2021. So again, that would put phase 4 in a bit of a rocky place, and that would put the schedule in a bit of a rocky place. And I'm not sure whether or not they're going to be sort of revamping that schedule or trying to get back onto that schedule because of the bug fixes that they've had to roll out. And I get that every game has growing pains, but at the end of the day, you kind of have to look back and go, okay, so we've spent a bunch of time on these bug fixes and stuff like that. Is it worth trying to put the update release schedule back where we want it to? Or are we just going to sort of restart our schedule where we are now and proceed from there? Because presumably, if they had to redirect a bunch of resources to these bug fixes, that could potentially mean that attention and resources were sort of pulled back off of the addition of console mods or whatever else they were developing for phase 2 and the like, and phase 3 and the future. Now, unfortunately, something that also adds to my concerns about the potential for, a phase 2 announcement, something that adds to my concerns about that is the fact that if you go on the site MapRunner, which is basically sort of basically a cheat for all the locations of all the items on all the maps, if we look at this screenshot that I put on the screen right now, basically you'll see the phase 1 Kola Peninsula region, and you'll see there are 2 maps listed right now. One of those maps is the lake, which we've seen gameplay of, it's playable, and then the other map is a map called Africanda, which we can't even click on MapRunner because potentially, well, not even potentially, but presumably, nobody's played it yet. And that makes complete and total sense because we haven't really heard anything from the developers at all about this map, and we haven't really had any announcements or walkthroughs or trailers related to that Africanda map where they name that map specifically and they go, yes, this map will have this feature, that feature, this feature. So it kind of makes me a little bit concerned that there's even more stuff to come in phase 1 that hasn't even been announced yet, that we have no information on yet, and that even further pushes back phase 2 and console mods themselves. Now, to sort of round out this topic and round out this conversation, I want to say that I am in no way trying to push the developers or rush the developers to, force console mods into a game that's not ready for them. Actually, on the contrary, I would rather they come later and into a more polished game and into a more polished state where they will work properly instead of risking potential crashes and issues with the consoles and just a variety of issues that arise when you add features to a game that's not necessarily ready for them yet. So I would rather err on the side of caution and patience for this, and I think that we all should as a community, because I see over and over and over the opinion of, well, we were advertised console mods, and why are they not here right now? What we were advertised, if we really go back and look at it and we really go back and rewatch the trailers, they actually said, and I quote, console players, mods are on their way in the future. So, I mean, it's kind of one of those things, well, I should say, and I quote, mods are on their way, and I think that sort of implies that on their way means later on down the road in the future as part of the live service. So I'm not necessarily trying to push the devs, but I'm also not trying to back them up and say everything that they're doing is perfect and fine, because I really want to see this game grow into the level of potential that I think it's always had, and I think that it has a ton of potential to be able to do that. And I would love to hear from you guys in the comments down below about how you're feeling about how all of that stuff has been handled thus far, because I know there are some people that are really happy with it and really excited about the future, and I also know that there are a lot of other people that are very angry at the way the updates have been handled and the way the patches have been handled. And I think sometimes we lose our tempers too quickly with things like updates and game patches and stuff like that, because this stuff can be really complicated at times. And, you know, I'm willing to sympathize with the devs on that, because I know that things like, you know, I'm no game developer. I don't know how it works, but I guarantee you that it's one of those things where it's like, if it was easy, everybody would do it. You know what I mean? Like, if it was that easy, then the people complaining about why isn't this fix and that fix and this fix here yet, those people would have already made those fixes if it was easy. So it's kind of one of those things where you have to ask yourself, like, you know, yes, it'd be cool if that fix was here right now, but could I make that fix myself? I don't think so. But with all of that being said, I would love to know your thoughts on everything going on, and I figured it was about time to make a little bit of an update on this and sort of talk about anything and everything that I was able to dig up. And with that being said, hope you all enjoyed. Subscribe for more if you're new, and I'll see you guys in the next one.